Welcome back to another session of Demo Mondays. Demo Mondays is a video series presented on Mondays where I invite creators of different Amazon seller softwares and I ask them to present their products. And today my guest is amzcontrol. And amzcontrol is presented by the co-founder Vladi Gordon. Hello, Vladi.
Hello, Augustus. Thanks so much for having me.
Nice to meet you. Can you tell us what amzcontrol is and what problems does it solve for Amazon sellers?
Yes, sure. So amzcontrol stands for a couple of things, but the easiest way to describe it, our mission is to be the world's most precise and easiest to use profit analytics tool for Amazon sellers. So basically, it's a tool where sellers can enter their cost of goods and some other expenses, and we will calculate their profit automatically in a very precise way and present them with actionable information and visualization of different kind to help them make better decisions.
And what kind of Amazon sellers are you targeting? Does it fit everyone?
Sure. So mainly it's FBA. We don't have any specific limitations, but it makes most sense for sellers that are doing FBA. It's just because calculating the profit when you're doing FBA is pretty tricky because there are a lot of different fees, like for example storage fees or I don't know, inbound shipping fees and stuff like that. So most of our users are doing FBA. Some of them, however, not only FBA but also FBM. So a lot of sellers are starting to fulfill products by themselves or participate in programs such as Prime by Seller. And this is why they're doing both FBA and FBM. And we also have some guys who are doing drop shipping or online arbitrage. So basically there is no restriction for the kind of business. I would say it works best or gives the best value if you are also doing FBA of some kind. And from the point of view of the experience of the seller, actually we target every seller. So from the beginner to the most advanced. Of course, if you only have one product which you're selling maybe 1-2 times a day, it doesn't make a lot of sense to invest in a profit analytics tool because it's pretty easy to calculate your profit yourself. But if you are getting a little bit more sales, or if you're getting a second product, or maybe even different variants, then it starts being pretty tricky and costs a lot of time to calculate the profit. So it makes sense to check out a couple of profit analytics tools, and this is where we come into the play.
And very important information for international sellers. What marketplaces of Amazon do you cover with amzcontrol?
So, of course, Amazon.com and the North American marketplaces like Mexico and Canada. All Europe, we are based in Germany, in Stuttgart. So Germany, or Amazon.de, is, so to say, the home marketplace for us. And we support all other European marketplaces as well, just like Amazon Seller Central. So if you have one account somewhere in Europe, then you can use it to create your amzcontrol account. And then you can access all of the European marketplaces, that is France, Italy, UK, Spain, and Germany, from this integrated European account. And we do not support Japan and Australia currently, but that's already planned. Australia just launched, I believe, a couple of months ago, and not too many sellers yet. And Japan is growing, so we will add Japan and Australia at some point in time, but maybe later this year.
All right, cool. So let's jump into amzcontrol dashboard and let's see what your tool can do and how does it work.
All right, this is how the dashboard looks like when you enter amzcontrol. Basically, the first thing you need to do is obviously register and give us access to your MWS interface so that we can download all the orders and all the fees and all the information about the expenses and everything. And that step, as many tools, we only need to do once. And after you've done the initial setup, which lasts only like 2 minutes, we need some time to extract all the data from the seller account so that you start seeing meaningful results here in the software. And normally it lasts between 10 minutes and a couple of hours, depending on the amount of data and the period that we're going back. When you're set, then this is how the entry screen looks like. So I mentioned already, our tool amzcontrol is mainly about profit analytics, and actually the control in the name stands a little bit for controlling. You know, everybody knows the financial bookkeeping, which is basically about calculating profits for tax purposes. But there's also another type of bookkeeping, which is sometimes referred to controlling or also management accounting, and it's about making better business decisions based on data. And actually, this is how we view this whole topic. So it's not just about profit analytics, it's really about putting you into a position to make a better business decision based on data. And of course, the main indicator is the profitability. And Seller Central, as we all know, has a lot of statistics and also a lot of reports, but it's pretty hard to determine what you actually earn, especially in real time. So there is a way to download a couple of reports and merge them and do some Excel manipulations to calculate your profit, better or worse, but it costs a lot of time. So this is basically this was the starting point, or this is the problem that we solve. So when you log in here, you immediately see the profit, and the standard view shows you 4 tiles. So it's the profit for today, for yesterday, for this month, and for last month. And this is, by the way, a demo account, so anybody can go to amzcontrol.com and click the demo button and then watch this account. This is not real data, this is mocked, but we made it look a little bit real. This is why today here is 0. This is because it's currently midnight in Germany, actually 24 minutes past midnight. So in our virtual demo account, we didn't have any sales today yet, but we did have sales yesterday. And here you can see we sold 17 units, and this was the amount of revenue we made, and we immediately calculate the profit here, so 32 euros 42 cents. And the nice thing about this dashboard is that you can dive in and drill down into every number, and basically into every marketplace, into every product. So let me show you how this works. For example, if we click on last month, then here on the bottom we get a list of products that we sold last month. So we see that the net profit was 1,600 euros, and again, this is euros because our demo account is in Europe, but or it's a virtual European account, so to say. But of course, this works also in dollars or in British pounds if your home marketplace is Britain. So if we click on more here, then we see the exact situation for this period of time. So in this case, this was last month. So how many sales we had, and this is split by organic and PPC sales. Then how many units we sold, what was the promo value, advertising cost, and here you can see both PPC and handler search ads. We didn't have any last month, and then we see all the positions that are basically subtracted from the revenue to calculate your profit, and this is the net profit in the end. So this is, for example, Amazon fees, and there are a lot of fees. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Amazon has maybe like 40 different fees, and of course everybody knows the FBA fulfillment fee and the commission, because these are the 2 biggest fees. So like 15% commission depending on the category, or 12 or whatever. But there are a lot of other fees, like for example, monthly subscription, or like the inbound transportation fee that was not so huge last month, but still. And there are also things like the reimbursements. So Amazon reimburses numbers to us, or money to us now and then. For example, for fees that we already paid that were not necessary, like in case you get a refund. And this is always a nice surprise, and this shows up in some reports, but normally nobody's like considering it when you're calculating your profit manually. But under this position, Amazon fees, we will show all kinds of fees that Amazon charged us, really in everything that Amazon charged in this period of time. Okay, so another interesting position here are the refund costs. And I believe this is something pretty unique. So refund costs are, I would say, numbers that most of the sellers are neglecting because it's really hard to calculate how much refunds costed you. So this works like this. You sell an item, right? For example, in March. And then 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, the item gets returned. So normally when you calculate your profit for March, you need to, consider or account for this item sold that was returned later, right? Maybe it's even returned after you already, so to say, calculated and your profit for a month and made some decision based on this, right? So what needs to happen is really when a return comes in April, then we need to correct or subtract the cost of this return. By cost, I mean the cost of the product if it was broken, but also the fees that are not getting reimbursed, or the fees that are applied to the seller when a return comes in. So we need to subtract all these numbers from April's financial result because effectively a return which came in April makes our profit in April smaller. So yeah, let me show you how we calculate it here. So the refund costs here in this, I believe it is actually April, are 200, so roughly 300 euros, which is a pretty big number if you put it in comparison with our net profit. So it's like almost 20% of the net profit. And what happens here is basically the following. And here, if you click on this little triangle, then we really explain you how we calculate this profit, and all these numbers are coming from the Amazon MWS API. So first, we take the reimbursed amount, because when a return is initiated, Amazon immediately reimburses the whole money to the customer. Then a couple of things happen. So for example, a customer sends the item back into the Amazon warehouse. Amazon opens the package, the return package, and unpacks the item and decides, is it good or is it broken? And for that, they are charging money, and this is called return fee. And here you see the return fee. Then there is a special like commission for refunds, and this is here, this commission. So basically, it's separated in two. There is a per unit fee, general refund commission. So we display them exactly here. Then shipping and shipping chargeback, I think we can ignore this for this webinar. But basically what happens is, if a customer was charged for shipping in addition to the product price because they're not a prime customer, then this amount is refunded when the refund comes in, but it's kind of neutralized by the position which is called shipping chargeback. So yeah, they are roughly the same, have the same order of magnitude, but I think we can ignore it. And if you guys want to know exactly, then let me know. I can explain you the details. Yes, and then there's things like refunded promotion or the commission. So basically, this is a nice one. Amazon is fair, right? So in this regard, like if we sell a product and Amazon charges us 15% commission and the product gets returned, then Amazon returns this 15% to the seller. And this is why this number here is positive. Okay, and last but not least are the product costs. So you see here it's a positive number. Basically what happens is the following. If the customer breaks the product or maybe unpacks it in a way that it's not sellable anymore, then what we need to do to be completely correct or accurate is we need to account for the cost of goods or for the cost of this item. If the item is sellable, however, we can add the cost of this product as a positive number to our calculation, because we already considered this expense at the time when we were calculating the profit for the sale, right? So if a customer sells a product, we subtract its cost. When the product comes back, if it's positive, we need to add the buying price of the product, and this is what happens here. However, of course, not all products are sellable when they come back. And we automatically evaluate this, and we look into every transaction and see if Amazon decided that the product is sellable or not, and kind of reimburse this number in the calculation. So all in one, you have a number, and this is roughly about 300 here, and this is what returns effectively costed us in this month. So other positions here are things like cost of goods, and we can differentiate it here also by sub positions like cost of goods sold and goods that are lost or sold off Amazon. And we also have things like VAT if you're in Europe, because this is a tax, so it makes your profit less. And also expenses, and expenses are things like fixed costs or some other expenses that are not tracked automatically in the Seller Central. Things like your warehouse, if you have one, like prep center, or your I don't know, accountant, or maybe some accounting software or software that you're using for your business, like amzcontrol. You can enter them all here under expenses, and then we will consider them every month or one time, depending on how they are. Okay, so and here's our profit we end up with. So the next thing I would like to show is a drill down into the product. So once you click on one of these tiles, the list here on the bottom is updated, and you see exactly, okay, in this month I sold that much of this unit and that many of this party gift box, or demo shop is selling boxes. And by the way, these are not real essence, they're fake. We can also group by parent here. So if you want to see like how many sales and how much profit you made by product, regardless of which variation you sold, then there's this possibility here. But whether you do that or not, you see the units sold and the amount of sales, and in the end also the net profit contribution of this exact SKU. And if you click on this more link, then you will see basically the same detailed overview of all different fees and refund costs and Amazon fees and stuff that I just explained, but only for this one product. So you see, we can drill down into really every single SKU and inspect every kind of fee, and to see, for example, okay, maybe I've got too many refunds on this one. We can do something about it. So I'd like to show you a couple of more things on the dashboard. Basically, because this is the main instrument that our customers are using, we wanted to give them multiple opportunities to do their business intelligence, or sort and filter and visualize this in a way that that is best to make some business decisions. So for example, we have a filter here, and you can filter this view by one or multiple products, or you can even search here by name or by tag, or I don't know, something like box, and then select the product or the products that you're interested in. We also have a list of marketplaces here, depending on which ones are active. Normally, it's, if you're selling in Europe, it's all European marketplaces. Here in the demo account, it's just DE, so this is why the numbers are in euro. And we have a period here, and you can select a couple of pre-configured like settings for these styles, like today, yesterday, this month, or last month, or you can choose a custom range. So basically, you could say like, okay, I would like to see what was going on during Christmas time. And we say, okay, from the 18th of December till, let's say, the 31st. And we apply this filter. Takes a while because we need to calculate the data specifically for this custom range. But yeah, then you get all the numbers exactly for this range. And also broken down by products. Okay, a couple of other interesting things here are these two representations. One is a chart, and a chart is basically built in the same way, or we followed the same principle here. So we show some aggregated data in the chart itself, and everything here is clickable. So if I click on February, for example, then I get the details here. So I get the sales and the units sold and all those fees that we're discussing, like Amazon fees for this month. So for example, yeah, we had some weird stuff here, like missing from inbound, which was, however, positive because Amazon reimbursed us this missing items. Or yeah, there was some fee for data. I'm not sure what that is exactly, because sometimes they are not even documented by Amazon. And if we don't know what that is exactly, then we just show you the original name. Yeah, and here on the bottom again, we see all the products that were sold or reimbursed or returned in the period that was selected. So in this chart, you can see we see the advertising cost and the refunds. This is the number of refunds, and the net profit. But you can change the chart as you wish. So we could say, okay, I want to see, for example, the sales and the refund costs, and maybe, I don't know, the net profit or cost of goods or something like this. So you can pick any parameters that you want, and this will be saved. And also here, you can choose, like, do we want to see the data by month, or maybe by week, or even by day. So if I click on last 30 days by day, then it will give me a chart for basically the last month, which will be by day. So you see here's the date now, and I can inspect any specific day. So for example, here I see there was a negative net profit. We can see why. So if I click on it, we can see maybe there was some storage fee or something. No, that was not the case. Okay, here's the problem. It was a payday for our tax consultant. So we subtracted 150 euros exactly on this day. So this is why this day was negative. So you see it's pretty flexible. That also in combination with the product filter or with the marketplace filter gives you a way to drill down and see really and find problems with your product. So if you see, for example, there was a weird day where there were too many charges charged, then we can also play with this filter and really drill down to the product and see what was going on. Okay, and the last but not least, the representation here is a profit and loss table. So basically the data is the same, but the view is a little bit different. So here, all the numbers are presented in an interactive table. And also here, our vision was to display aggregated data on the top and specific data. So basically data by SKU or by parent on the bottom. So every column in this table is clickable. So if we click, like, for example, in December, then the data on the bottom will be updated and we'll see all the products sold in December. But we also can apply the same filters as before. Here all the different positions are expandable, so you can see really, like, what were your fees. For example, I don't know, like, here's a warehouse damage position or lightning deals. You can see what were the lightning deal expenses per month, for example. So here we had 1 month, September, we had a couple of lightning deals, but no more lightning deals. Okay, so this is pretty much it for the dashboard. You see we have 3 different representations and a lot of different filter criteria and a lot of ways to aggregate the data by month, by week, by day, pretty sophisticated drill down possibilities. So basically what you need to do to get meaningful numbers in the dashboard, especially the correct profit, is to enter your buying prices. Of course, we can only calculate the profit if we have the buying prices or the cost of goods, and that you can do here under the tab products. So here we display all the products, and you can specify the cost of goods. And so you can see, for example, here for this box, it costs 133, and the cost type is constant. That is, this is just one number that is applied to all the transactions or all the orders, regardless when the order was done. And if you change this, this will also affect the orders retrospectively. So basically orders that were for 2 months or for 6 months before, 2 months before. And here we also have a little margin calculator. So it shows you, okay, with this product, this is how much we earn. However, please be aware that these are just estimates. Actually, the software works this way. We really take a look into every single transaction. So we download your transaction report and look into every transaction and calculate how many fees or how much price you, what was the selling price and which fees you're actually charged, or you were actually charged by Amazon. And then we sum all the numbers up and apply the buying prices, and then we know the profit. So we don't like calculate the profit or the margin for one sale and multiply it by the number of sales, but we actually take a look into every transaction. And this is important because the selling prices are changing and the buying prices are changing, so we want to know it really precisely. And as I told you, our mission is to be the world's most accurate profit analytics tool, and I believe that we are by far the world's most accurate tool for Amazon sellers.
Vladi, and these fields are read-only. Is it
Yes.
Is it because it's demo account?
Oh yeah, sure. So sorry for this. This is the demo account. As I told you, you can go to the website and click on the demo and see it yourself. So of course, if you register, this will not be read-only anymore.
Okay.
And okay, here you can specify the VAT percentage if you are in Europe. If no, this field will not even be shown. And let me show you one more thing. There are a couple of ways to specify this cost. So one is like cost type constant, which I just explained. So this is just one number which is applied to every sale regardless when the sale was made. But there's also another type which I can't show, unfortunately, in the demo account because it's read-only. But after you register, you will have a cost type by batch and by period here. And let me show you a screenshot how this looks like. So basically, if you choose to specify your cost by period and or by batch, then what happens is you can pick different periods and different prices for different periods. So here, for example, we had one period going from minus infinity until, so basically, which is going till 31st of October 2017, and our total price per unit was €1.39. And here you can also specify individual components of this price. So for example, if you paid $1.39 buying price for one unit, then that's what you can type in here. So the number here and the number of units here. If you paid, for example, €1,000 for I don't know, shipping, or $1,000, then you can type in the amount of 1,000 and the units, for example, 5,000 or whatever. So the units that you actually shipped for this money, right? And this anything you type in here will be normalized to price per unit and then added up. So okay, in this example, you see there are just different kinds of cost components that you can specify, but actually we have only a manufacturing component filled out. So it's 139. And then after this date, we had a different price. And when you add a different period, of course, again, you can specify all the prices. And we're doing this because the buying prices are changing, and also the shipping prices are different. So maybe you ordered one batch by sea and another batch by airplane or by air, then of course you will get a different price. So what you do here, again, in the second batch, you fill out all these components like manufacturing and shipping, and in this case it's just 99 cents for the manufacturing. And before you like submit this new price, what we can do is, and this is optional, but we can account for the remainder of stock from the previous batch. So normally what happens is you buy, like, let's say maybe 5,000 items, and this is your buying price per item, and then you're selling them, selling, and at some point you place a new order, and a new order comes in. But when the new order arrives, you still have the remainder from the old batch. So the question is now, what is your correct cost of goods? So should you take the old one? Obviously no, because you have a lot of new items that were shipped in, and they're cheaper maybe. Should you take the new one? Probably yes, but at the same time we have the remainder from the previous stock. So the 100% accurate solution would be to build a weighted average of these both numbers, and this is exactly what you can do here if you want. So if you check this action, then or checkbox, then what we will do is we will not just take into account the new price that you specified, we will also account for the old batch. So here you can type in how many items you have left from the old batch, and actually this number is pre-filled automatically from the FBA stock. And then you just type in how many items you have available from the new batch. And the new price, the new total price will be actually this. So you can see in the new batch we paid 99 cents per item, but the new total price is actually 1.03. And that's because we had 100 items left from the old batch. Okay, so this is a little bit tricky. I hope I managed to explain it in a good way. To summarize it, you can be as precise as it gets with regards to the buying price. Okay, so let's go back to the demo. Yeah, this was pretty much the products view, and of course you can also import your buying prices and all the other information about the products through this import button. There's an Excel template, and you can enter them in Excel and then import the whole Excel. Let's go to the next tab, which is expenses. So what you can do here is basically you can type in your fixed costs and other expenses that are not tracked automatically. So yeah, these are the things that we saw in the dashboard, like the accounting software, for example. And the nice thing about this is when you enter them, you can decide whether these are monthly costs or one-time costs. And if you mark them as monthly costs, then what we will do is when the new month begins, we will just fill them out automatically for you. So basically, if you're paying an office rent of 100 euro, which is pretty cheap, but maybe it's just a table in a co-working space for a couple of days a week, or of course it depends on where you are in the world, then you just enter it once and we will consider it every month. And the same you have for tax consultant, for example. If you have a guy assisting you with filing your tax reports, then you can enter this. And the 23rd of each month is then the payday. So this is the day when we will automatically subtract 150 euros from your profit. And this is what we just the dashboard. Also, what's possible is to specify a product. So, okay, in this case, we don't have an example of a product-specific expense, but if you would do a photo shooting, for example, and you can say photo shooting is associated with a product, and just pick a product here, then we will know this, and this expense will be shown in the per product view in the dashboard. Okay, so with that, we have a pretty accurate picture of the profit. And as I said, this is our mission with this software.
And if let's say I add office rent as an expense, do you split this expense across all the products?
No, we show, so if you don't specify any product here, then we will show it on the account level.
Okay.
We had this idea, and we have this request coming now and then we discuss with our customers. We until now we just never felt that it's correct, because which is actually not dependent on the number of items that you sell. And as soon as you start splitting it by product, then you need to ask yourself, okay, is it actually by product or by sold item? And yeah, this will be pretty variable, because the number of items sold varies. But if you guys feel differently, then let us know. I would be really thankful for feedback on that. We're in general very open to ideas and suggestions. Okay, so let me go to the next step, and this is the stock. So what we have here is a module which helps you track your stock and restock your products, right? So sometimes it's pretty tricky to order the products at the right time because we're getting these emails from Amazon that say, okay, you're running out of stock, but normally it's too late when this mail comes, because what you need to do is you need to order the product or place an order at the manufacturer's factory and then ship it to the US or to Europe and maybe do some inspections and stuff like that. And this all costs time. So what we do here is basically we take your FBA stock and we calculate the sales velocity. And the sales velocity is calculated this way. We take the units sold in the last 3 days and the units sold in the last 7 days and units sold in the last 30 days. And we make a weighted average of these numbers. So in this case, for this product, it's 0.38. So it's not selling too fast, but you get the idea. And the idea here is really to make a weighted sum, because last 3 days are typically more representative for a product than let's say last 30 days. But these weights you can actually change yourself. So if you feel that the preset weights are not applicable to your business, or you have a better guess, then you can change them and apply this to all the products. And then we have the sales velocity, and we actually know for how many days this stock will be enough. Like for example, here 702 days. Okay, as I said, it's not the best, maybe not the best selling product here in our demo. So based on this, we will calculate 2 different numbers. Whether you are running out of stock, and yes or no. So this is similar to what Amazon tells you, but also, is it time to reorder or no? And whether it's time to reorder or no, we calculate by grabbing your manufacturing or production time and the shipping time. And let me show you how that is maintained a little bit. So here you see these terms 30, 10, and 5. And what this means is that you basically need 30 days to produce an item, or rather a batch, and then 10 days to ship it from China to your prep center if you have a prep center, and then 5 more days to ship it from the prep center to FBA. And if you're not using a prep center, you can untick this check mark, and then basically we'll have no more prep center setting here, so you will only have a production time and the shipping time from the manufacturer to the FBA warehouse. So you can also change these numbers, and if you want to apply your new numbers to all the products, or customize the numbers based on the product, because different products take more or less long to manufacture. And when we know this per product, we are really able to predict when you're going to run out of stock, because we know the sales velocity and we know your production time and shipping time, and we can tell you exactly, okay, it's time to reorder, it's time to ship from the prep center to the Amazon FBA warehouse. And okay, you see in this example we're all green, but these green flags turn red or yellow if it's time to act. We also have an alerts option here on the top, which shows you like the alerts in the chronological order, so that you know, is there any to do or no for today. So in this day, see for today there are no to dos. All right, and last but not least, let me show you the export. We have a couple of export options. So at the moment, it's 5 different ways to export the data. Basically, all that you saw in the dashboard, we can export as Excel. So including profit numbers and including this different breakdown level of detail. So we can export the dashboard by day, for example, or by month, or even by product and by day, or we can export all the individual orders. Of course, you can also download your orders from the Seller Central, but the formats are not always very user-friendly. So we had a lot of customers asking us for adding such a report. Or you can export your customers in a format which you can use for example, for creating a custom audience in Facebook. Of course, here I need to tell you, please be aware of data privacy and make sure that that everything is okay there. But from our side, we can provide you this information, so we can help you extract this information from your Seller Central in a more usable way. And yeah, of course, that you can do for any period, and if possible, then as Excel or as CSV, whatever is better for you. Okay, so this is pretty much it. The profit analytics part. You see, we also have some stock management capabilities, and this is really the core of our software. And we will always stay we will always keep our mission to be world's most accurate and precise profit analytics tool for Amazon sellers, and also one which is fun and easy to use. Yeah, so I guess we will have maybe is it the right time to talk about the roadmap, or do you think?
Let's talk about the pricing.
The pricing, okay.
So
let
yeah,
me show.
What are the prices for the users, and
Yes.
how different marketplaces are affected?
Okay, so the pricing, it starts with $19, and in fact, $19 per month. And in fact, most of our users are satisfied with this package. So we scale by the number of orders, because guys or folks with a lot of orders, they create a lot of workload on our systems. But up to 3,000 orders per month, you only pay $19. So this means roughly 100 orders per day. And basically, at the moment, there are no feature restrictions between the packages, and we will really try to keep it this way. The only restriction is we only allow a maximum of 30,000 of products, and that's because there are a lot of customers that, or sellers, I guess, drop shippers that have a lot of products, much more than 30,000. If you are such a guy and you still want to use amzcontrol, then just drop us a mail and we'll give our best to find a solution. But the standard package, this is the only restriction. Yeah, and there are two more packages, $29 and $39, but yeah, this is the entry level if you have less than 100 orders per day.
All right, thank you for showing amzcontrol. Can you reveal us some future features you're planning to release to your users?
Yes, of course. So one is a keyword tracker, keyword rank tracker, basically a tool where probably every seller knows such kinds of tools. A tool where you can enter some ASINs or some products, and for every product specify a couple of keywords, and then the tool will track your position in the search by this keyword, just to make sure that you do not I would guess fall down too much by a certain keyword, because if that happens, that normally the next problem that will happen is that you're losing sales, and a lot of sellers want to react before this happens, and maybe, I don't know, turn on some PPCs, or reduce the price, or maybe make some giveaways or promotions. So a keyword rank tracker, in fact, it's already released, but as beta, the closed beta version. So maybe you have seen the grayed out beta link. If you're a customer, or if you become a customer and would like to beta test this module, then write us an email and we'll put you on the waiting list. But this is going to be the next one. I believe the beta phase will last for maybe 3 to 4 weeks, and then we're going to release it for everybody. The next one, which is coming into the beta in the next weeks, is the autoresponder. So basically, it's a tool which sends automatic emails with a follow-up email sequence to your customers, asking them if everything is okay, and if they would like to leave you a review or a feedback. So this is a pretty important tool, especially for selling in the US or on Amazon.com, because although Amazon made some changes and introduced this opt-out feature for marketing mails, it's still very effective, and it helps generate a lot of reviews, or rather more reviews than without. So we decided to add this tool to the package. And by the way, both keyword tracker and the autoresponder will be available also in the smallest package. So we are going to need to make some restrictions there, like on the number of keywords that you're tracking, or also on the number of emails that you send. But we will make sure that some versions of those tools are included into the basic package, which are enough for most of the sellers to work with. And by the way, our vision, once Jeff Bezos wrote a letter, I think it was when they were releasing Kindle, and he said that they're working very hard on making their products cheaper. There are some companies that try their best to make themselves more expensive, but Amazon wants to make the products as cheap as possible. And basically, this is I like this idea and this vision, because this in the end this results in more customers, and also beginners that maybe don't want to pay a lot of money for tools and rather focus on their business. So this is like our mantra, or part of our vision as well. And some more modules that we will be releasing are alerts, like about piggybackers or about buy box when you lose buy box, or also about new feedback and new reviews. Not sure when, but also in the near future. And also things like a sales tracker, so a competitor sales tracker. This will also be a part of our tracking package in the next month. And this is the plan, that this all will be available this year, and I hope even sooner, so until end of summer. And then we will work on a couple of new surprises for you guys.
Cool. And how does support work? What's the best way to contact support once you're using the software?
Yeah, so we have a chat plugin on the page. So if you have a question, or if you're exploring the demo, then you can ask a question there, and we try our best to make sure that somebody is online all the time. If that doesn't work, then just drop us an email, and we are responding. We try our best to respond same day. We do respond within 24 hours. If it's a weekend, or if it's a very complicated question which requires maybe some analysis, then it might take longer, but we will respond within 24 hours for sure. And the idea is to be even faster than that. And in fact, support is something that a lot of software companies don't like, because it's a lot of work, but we kind of like it, because we view it as a way to learn more about the customers and the customers' needs. So we're having a lot of fun mailing and chatting to you guys.
Great. And the last question, do you have any offer for Demo Mondays viewers?
Sure. So normally we offer a 1-month trial, so like 31 days. If you register on the website, amzcontrol.com, then you get the trial of 31 days. And I would like to give you 2 months trial. And especially I know that especially new sellers, they appreciate it, because this means they can use the software for free for 2 months. And we will provide you a link in the description, and you can click on this link, and then you will see the number 2. So when you will be registering, it will say get a 2 months trial. If something doesn't work, or you don't find the link, or whatever, and then just register normally and drop us a mail to support@amzcontrol.com with a subject Demo Mondays, or just write it in the text, and we'll extend the trial for you to 2 months.
Great. Thank you very much, Vladi, for being on the show, and good luck in your business. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Augustus. It was fun. Thank you.